if you're grateful for what you have, if you're grateful for the efforts you make in your life, then I think that leads itself into eternal optimism. And that's the path that I'm on. Like I said, I haven't always considered myself to be an optimist, but I feel like in the last few years, I've really shifted myself into that lane. And I think that's because of reminding myself every day that I'm grateful for what I have.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting, or maybe the worst episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast ever. I have a guest today, and there's a story behind why I said that. I have a guest today named Mr. Brien Gearin, and Brien, he's awesome. We've been chatting for a while. We're two chatty Cathys, and we're talking here about life and liberty and the pursuit of all happiness and all the obstacles we overcome in our lives. And he's got a great story for you. But before we get into his story, I first want to encourage everyone to go get a copy of my book, The Eternal Optimist. It's never too late because it just came out on March 8th. And that's the first time I've ever plugged my own book in my actual podcast, Brien. So I hope that you don't feel dirty or used in any way. Are you okay?
I love it. Well, this is going to be the worst podcast experience ever, right? That's how I prefaced it. So we're off to a great start.
Awesome. I mean, even eternal optimists, when you get together and you try to have a bad time, it's going to be bad or good. Well, I have to get something off my chest first here, Brien. I see that I believe you live in Ohio, and you're wearing a very bright red color. So I'm wondering, are you a Dayton fan? You're not a Buckeye fan.
I'm a Dayton Flyer.
Okay,
No Buckeyes. When it comes to college football, I'm a big Notre Dame fan. If I could turn my computer around, you'd see my Notre Dame wall. I've got a picture signed by Lou Holtz. It says, "Brien, live life like a champion today." And it stares me in the face every morning, every day when I'm at this computer. But I am a Dayton Flyer, University of Dayton, go Flyers. So that's my school. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Skyline
so I'm a big
chili,
Reds
baby.
fan, big Bengals fan. Skyline chili. We just had that for dinner like 2 nights ago because my wife was like, "I'm not cooking." I'm like, "Neither am I." Skyline time. So
nice. All right. Sponsored by Skyline Chili today, the Eternal Optimist podcast.
There we go. Feeling good and hungry.
Cincinnati
Skyline time.
may have been quite possibly the worst city I've ever driven in. I don't mean traffic was like just bumper to bumper and I couldn't move. That was Dallas. That's Atlanta on 285. Cincinnati driving, man, that was terrifying. They were driving like maniacs over there. Are you in that crowd of maniac drivers?
No, I just asked my wife. I'm the most skilled and best driver you will ever meet. And that is my opinion. And I am not biased in the least bit. But I can tell you, Cincinnati, we're great drivers. First of all, Matt, if you're on the east side, no offense to anyone in Cincinnati listening on the west side, east side, west side's a real thing. If you try to, I'm the best driver I know. And if I try and drive on the west side, it's going to end poorly. That's why I don't go to the west side. But go to Pittsburgh. So if we're going to throw shade, let's throw it at Pittsburgh because nobody here likes Pittsburgh and nobody should. So especially driving there. I'm going to really turn off a ton of your listeners in the Pittsburgh area.
Well, actually, my listeners come from New York. They come from Charlotte. They come from Seattle somehow. And they come from Boston. So those are like the main areas I've been told. So I don't think you've offended anybody from there yet. So let's try.
Yeah, I've had trouble on the roads on the west side of Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm a big Bengals fan. So no bias,
I love
right?
Bengals. I remember back when Tim Krumrie snapped his leg in the opening quarter of the Super Bowl, and I was following Boomer Esiason back in the day, and then John Taylor got that touchdown to win the game. I was feeling the pain.
The helmet behind my head here is when I was a little kid, my dad bought me a little kitty jersey, Bengals jersey, pants, shirt, helmet. The shirt was Boomer Esiason, and I still got my old little helmet up there. Nice. So still lives.
I love to see him debate and talk football on the show. I don't care for Phil Simms as much, the way that he talks. I love to see Boomer, but my favorite of all time, I just got to say, I love Tony Romo, man. He gets deep and granular, and I just love the breakdown. It's like if you're at a Mount Rushmore of sports announcers in football, Tony Romo is up there just because he's not even that, he's new to it still, relatively. And he does great.
When he gets your attention. See what they're doing here, Jim? They're going to go down the seam and got the guy in the slot. He's going to go left. He's going to go right. He's going to break. He's going to go. It's a touchdown. How's that?
Also on the Mount Rushmore is Brien Gearin. He's up there. I can tell you who's not on Mount Rushmore. I can tell you who is at the very bottom of the totem pole, who is living in the gutter, who I don't want to hear speak, is Joe Buck. And Joe, by the way, if you listen to this, I love you and I appreciate you. And I just don't appreciate some of the commentary sometimes. That's all. And I can still love a person and care about them as a human and not care for everything they do. So I'm not going to listen to Joe Buck that much. I'd like to listen to Jim Nantz, just the voice on the Masters.
Hello, friends.
Yeah, pretty much the voice. I'm there for the voice.
He's my all-time favorite, Jim Nantz. Hello, friends.
Yeah. Well, so we're united in that we dislike Ohio State. We're united that Skyline Chili is awesome, and united stay away from the west side of Cincy. And if you live there, no real offense. I'm just not going to drive there. So, and I think you'll be okay with that. Yeah. Right.
It's nothing against the folks on the west side. It's just the roads are horrible.
I wonder what my buddy Joe, he played ball. My friend Trevor, they played ball up there in high school, and they played college football at Wofford College, where I went to school back in the 90s. And I know Joe listens sometimes, so I wonder what his take is going to be on our dissection of Cincinnati so far.
We could do a whole different episode on that. There's a lot that's there.
Yes. Well, we are. I think we can have some fun today, team. Just connecting with Brian's really easy and fun. And I'm going to switch things up and kind of go into a place that may not be as fun or as easy. And one of the reasons I want to ask Brian about some of the hard stuff he's been through in life is because he has succeeded in a number of paths. He's done well for himself, professionally, personally. He's a great guy. He's easy to talk to, and he's had success. Behind all of that, there are some real obstacles that he is dealing with, he has dealt with, and he's overcome. So I'm going to ask Brian to kind of narrate for us some of the hard stuff that you've experienced in your life, Brian. So I'll leave it to you to take us back to when you were born, and then move forward with what are some of the, let's just say 3 or 4 of the key things that have been challenging for you in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'll preface that with I'm very blessed and I'm very grateful for the life that I have, the life that I lead, and the friends and family, especially my wife, my parents, my kids, my siblings. I am very, very fortunate. I recognize that every day, but that doesn't mean that there haven't been challenges that I've been presented with personally, professionally, with family, with friends. So I'm not, I don't view myself as anything special or crazy or outlandish, but there have been a lot of things that have been thrown my way that it's one of those things where I've had to decide to deal with them and deal with them in the right manner, the way that I felt was best, but also be able to rely on the people in my life to help me do that. It's not just a singular journey. There's help that I have through my family, my network, my friends. But even in the last few months here, I'm realizing more so on the business, but also the personal side, knowing that there's connections that I have that I can rely on to help me through those times. So, I like I said, blessed, had a great childhood. I'm one of 3, so I got an older sister and a younger sister. Love them to death. And when I was 12, was kind of probably the first I've been floating through life 12 years. Hey, it's great. I get to play outside, play with my friends, play baseball, go play football and have a great time, do some family vacations. 12 years old, roll around, and I get super sick for about 2 months. And this was my my very first year of playing football in 6th grade. And that fall, I couldn't stay awake. I was losing weight. I was always having to go pee, just peeing all the time, right? And just feeling lethargic, and my diet went away, and I was drinking like a horse, right? And come to find, there's one day, and God love you, Mom, but she always sends us to school, right? Rain, shine, snow, sickness, you're going to school, you're fine. So one day I remember in 6th grade, I'm lying on the couch, and I'm feeling like death. And my mom's like, "Are you sure you can't go to school?"
By the way, how does death feel? Were you making out with death, or were you actually you were death on the couch right there?
I was not. I'm being a little facetious. I was not on the verge of dying, but we went to the doctor and they ran some tests and they checked my blood sugar. My blood sugar was 900. The doctor says, "This boy's got to go to the ER. You're you should be in a coma right now from diabetic ketoacidosis." Which is basically where your blood sugar is through the roof. A normal human like Matt, you're not a diabetic. Your normal blood sugar is probably sitting anywhere from about 75 to 95.
And you're 900? Holy cow.
And I was 900, like off the charts. Like, and this was, I was probably pre-diabetic for a couple months or so, but it's really a virus that sets it off. And I don't mean to get into the science and technicalities of diabetes, but type 1 diabetes, that is. And so I was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic. And at that time, this was in 2002, insulin pumps were not a thing yet. You had shots. So I took 2 shots a day, one in the morning, one at night. And when I say I took them, my mom or dad administered them because to this day, I'm still scared of needles. I hate them.
Where did they give you the needle? Like your hip, your butt, your arm, or?
Your arm, or like the top of your butt was typically like kind of around your waistline or on the back of your arm.
So that conversation, you're at 900, the doctor tells you all this. So what's your mom saying? What are you thinking at that moment when you get this diagnosis that you should be in a coma right now?
Me personally, I was in 6th grade, right? I didn't know what was going on, and I was on the verge of being in a coma. I remember going to the ER. My mom drove me right down. We went in there. They hooked me up on IVs and fluids, and I imagine at the time some insulin. And I was in the hospital for probably 3 or 4 days, and it was kind of I will say it had to have been easier on me than it was on my mom and my dad, because now that I'm a parent, and I've told my mom this before, I can't imagine having my child being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, especially at age 12, when you're running around, you're doing things and you're having fun. And now this big kind of life thing happens, health thing where, and my parents didn't know anything about diabetes. None of us did. We didn't know. And none of my family members had diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And I always make that distinction because there's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is genetic.
Okay.
And that's where your pancreas, it used to be called juvenile diabetes. It's where your pancreas, essentially the cells in your body attack the islet cells that produce insulin. And it's for someone with an autoimmune disorder, this is one of the things that happen. It's basically your body thinks there's invaders, and it produces the cells to go attack the invaders. Okay. So in this case, it's thinking my islet cells that are trying to produce insulin to break down my glucose, it thinks those are invaders. So the body is killing its own good, useful cells, thinking they're invaders. And when that happens, now you have excess sugar in your blood, and that's what spikes it. And if it goes undiagnosed, you'll die a slow, painful death over a few months. You could probably, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. You could probably last a small handful of months, but they're not going to be comfortable. And eventually you'll go into a coma and, it was, I imagine it, and I know it was a huge thing for my parents, even more so than for me, because I was 12. My brain wasn't developed enough to really wrap my head around what it was. It was like, so you mean I got to take shots now, and I have to eat at very specific times of the day with very specific amounts of carbs, and okay, whatever. And it wasn't until I was about 18 and I was going off to college where I had an appointment with my endocrinologist. And this is kind of the way to measure, I don't want to say success, but the way to measure your health as a diabetic is through a number called an A1C. Okay. And that number measures the average sugar in your blood. Again, not a doctor. I should probably know exactly what this means. But all I know is that for a diabetic, if this number is sub 7.0, then you are greatly reducing the chance of struggles later in life. Okay. And when I was 17, 18, going off to school, that my number was probably floating in the 8 to 9 range. And I didn't really care, didn't think much about it. And I had this meeting with my endocrinologist, and he said, look, if you don't make choices to improve yourself and take care of yourself, then by the time you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, you could be losing limbs. You could be going blind. You could be losing your hearing. And he's like, I'm being serious. I need you to hear me right now and decide that you're going to take care of yourself. And I know this guy, he had seen plenty of people throughout the years. He was an older guy who didn't take care of themselves. And by the time you're 38, you could be going blind, or you could have neuropathy, or you could be losing limbs. And it scared the bleep out of me, and it kind of set me straight. And I haven't had an A1C over 7 since probably sometime in college, not long after that. But to be fair, the technology has greatly improved. I wear an insulin pump. I wear a continuous glucose monitor. So I have this patch on my arm that talks to this pump on my body, and it delivers insulin based on my blood sugar. When I eat food, I just tell it how many grams of carbs I have. So it's greatly improved, but there are times where it's just like, I have to change my site every 3 to 4 days. It's where the insulin goes in.
Oh.
And sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes your blood's 300. And sometimes you've got 3 meetings, your blood's 300. You feel like crap. And it's hard to focus. It's hard to move on. So it's. So
do you keep this in your pocket the whole time?
Minimize
like
it
a jacket pocket, breastplate pocket, or there's a pump?
Just right on. I keep it right on my hip.
Okay.
Like on my my pants clip.
So you got a clip. Right?
So it's yeah.
Wow.
So it's this little algorithmic device that delivers insulin through a tube into a cannula that sits just beneath my skin that's adhered to my body, around my stomach, around my back.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the first major challenge that I faced in life, was getting diagnosed with that. So, but it's had a pretty decent effect on my life, whether it's doing well or doing not, or just knowing that, I'm now 60% more predisposed to heart disease because I'm a type 1 diabetic. And that kind of lights a different fire under your butt when you learn that, to be like, I need to go do everything I want to do. Like, there's no guarantees in life, and there's no guarantees I'm going to live however long I want to live, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of has that effect on your mindset.
Well, you also, at a young age of 18, are now forced to make a more conscious decision that, frankly, I didn't start eating better until I was about 31, when it didn't go off anymore. It started to pound on, and you had to make that decision. You were forced to, lest if you don't do it, in twice the number of years from now, you may go blind. You may lose a limb. And I mean, the maturity of an 18-year-old to be able to make that decision and control and discipline your diet, because you're not thinking when I'm 36 or 40 something. And those are old people. Like right now, I don't know how old are you right now, Brien?
I'm 33.
My God, you're so young. See, I'm old. I am really old at 46, right? And you...
Well, you don't look it.
Thank you very much, right? But the point is that you made that conscious decision, and you were that disciplined starting around 18. So...
Right. Well, and I will say that I wasn't perfectly disciplined from that moment on. I still went to college. I had my double cheeseburgers and my pizzas and my beers and my, the late night food that you probably shouldn't have before bed. Yeah. But it was still one of those where I'm like, okay, I at least need to be taking my insulin. I need to be responsible enough to, not miss, taking insulin. Like without insulin, your blood's going to go high. With too much insulin, your blood goes low, and that's a dangerous situation. So I definitely had a lot of trials and tribulations with it, and still do. But it was. I always remember that conversation, because now I take that to heart consistently.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you, my friend, for starting with that. And I'm guessing there are more choices down the road. So please continue. What's the next checkpoint of challenge or pain or struggle for you in your life after that?
Yeah. Well, so for me personally, it was, I went through school. I was one of those kids where if you'd have told me when I was 18, why don't you go start a business and make money instead of going to college and going into debt, I might have listened to you. But that wasn't the path that was, I grew up, if anybody who's around my age, that was kind of the thing in America. Like you go to high school, you get good grades, you go to college. That's how you do it. It's very much so like that in my family. Everybody went to college. That was the expectation. Yeah. Not that it was a bad expectation, but it was, I felt like I would have let a lot of people down if I wasn't going to college. It was just my path. Yeah. So I graduated, I got into UD. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm not bashing college by any means. I'm bashing the education system in general, but going to school, I did a lot more learning and growing on my personal side than I would necessarily say on the academic side. Again, not a bash against college, but just for me, being away from home, being amongst other people, just doing my own thing was a huge win in and of itself.
It's okay.
I ended up being an English major
all day long, man. I'm okay with that because it's not a great place. It's okay.
Yeah. No, Ohio State was no bueno. It's funny, like 5 of my best friends went there, but UD forever. But going to school, I met my wife there. She is like a guardian angel. Yeah. She's my everything. And I met her at UD.
First collision link.
So September of freshman year, we played on an intramural softball team together. Oh. And unbeknownst to me, until a little bit after we got married, my wife told me that, on that team, that's where we met. And one of my floor mates introduced me to her because he knew her through a group they had just joined. And we were playing softball, and we were on the same team on the same sideline. And apparently I turned to one of my other floor mates. I said, that girl, that Liz, she is super cute.
Oh,
just
nice.
Really, really cute. And she must have heard me. She heard me. And and she's like, I thought you planned that. Like you were trying to get me to kind of hear it. And I was like, no,
you can admit it. Go
I
ahead.
guarantee you I would not have tried that.
It was planned, wasn't it? You got it. No?
No, it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. It was not. That's the thing. Like that's just how dumb I was. I was talking so loud that she could hear it. But she had a boyfriend from home at the time. So it was one of those like, okay, well, yeah, she's super cute and I'll keep my eye on that. And junior year rolls around. We had worked in the same, we worked at the student union. I was at the front desk and she worked at the ice cream store in the basement.
Oh.
And so we saw each other in passing. We had some mutual friends. And then there was one night where I was on the phone with my sister saying, Kathy, the girls at UD, they suck. They're terrible. I want to date someone. I don't want to just, I don't want to be a guy that's not taken. And she's like, just chill out. Go have fun. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So that night, my buddy's like, hey, we're going to an America party at our other roommate's girlfriend's house. You're coming. I'm like, I'm kind of bummed. Maybe I'll stick around. He's like, no, shut up. You're going. So I go to this party and lo and behold, my wife Liz is there. She's there with a couple other mutual friends and we started dancing, having fun. And, one thing led to another. And I was like, I'm going to kiss you. And that's what happened.
Oh, nice.
And,
Did you declare that when you walked in the room? Yeah. I'm going to kiss you. That's what's going to happen.
It was like one of those, like from Dumb and Dumber, where he goes like sitting at the bar, he goes tractor beam, like one of those deals. And I think I had been provided with the tidbit of information that she was newly single.
Uh-oh.
So maybe there was a little bit of liquid courage involved. I don't know. I can't, can't prove that, but yes, there was. And
Bud Ice? Is that what it was? Was it Bud Ice?
It was Natty Light, or probably Natty Ice.
Nice. Upscale.
Oh, that was the champagne of beers for us. Yeah. But so a couple weeks later, or a week later, I texted her. We were watching the Super Bowl, and Madonna was the Super Bowl halftime show. I'd been going about a week. I'm like, how do I text this girl? Like, we made out a little bit. We had a great time. Like, she's super cute. I want to follow up on this. What do I do? Super Bowl halftime rolls around. She had told me her middle name is Madonna. So Madonna's performing the halftime show, and I'm like, here's my in. Here's the text. Here it comes. So Liz Madonna, how do you like this halftime show? And we had a great conversation. I asked her on a date. The rest is history. Now we have 3 kids.
Nice. Wow.
So
super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. Would she tell the same story, or would it be a little bit different? She tells the same story. Okay.
She would.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's awesome. How old are your kids now?
We have 5.5, 3.5, and 1.5.
Man. Oh,
so
still got diapers. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Still sleep stuff. Oh man. My heart goes out to you, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're blessed. Our kids have been fantastic sleepers. So we've been very lucky with kids who are good sleepers. I have friends who have some horror stories.
Yes.
So knock on wood, kids are good sleepers.
Fantastic. So you met Liz there in college. You learned a lot more on the personal side than you did from academic stuff, but you met Liz. So boom, that's a win. What was next?
Right. So I think the perfect segue was having kids. Well, before that, so we got married. We lived in Cleveland, Columbus, and Indianapolis over a span of 3.5 years. We moved back to Cincinnati. I'm from here. My wife, Liz, is from about an hour away in Indiana. So we wanted to be close to family. We lived with my parents for 9 months. God bless her for putting up with it was a good 9 months, probably more so for me than my wife. But we saved up. We bought our first house. The week we signed the papers for the house, we discovered we're pregnant with our first kid.
Yes.
Which was huge. This is awesome. This is great. It was about that same week I decided to start my business, a digital marketing agency.
Okay, so you find you're pregnant, you get a house, and you start a business all in the same week. Whew.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the house and the business had been in the works, but it was like, hey, I'm going all in. Like, I'm doing this. And I was working. I was building this on the side and working for my father-in-law. God bless him. I enjoyed working for him. It was a great job, but it allowed me the flexibility to start growing my thing on the side. So after a few years, I left and jumped into my agency full time. And that has its own trials and tribulations over the last 6.5 years. Yeah, so all of that in the same 3 week span.
And you
So
were
it's a little
moving, you were
crazy.
living with your parents. You got the house. You were starting a business. You find out you're pregnant. All that. I just want to highlight that is super impressive. That all those big life changes and stuff happening at the same time while you're starting a business. That's the crucial part for everyone out there who has ever started a business or run a business. You know that when you start that business, you hit the go button and you just go, and it's all encompassing. And you're making all these big life changes. What was that first year in business like as you were pregnant? Getting ready to have your first child. What was that first year?
Yeah, it was bumpy. I mean, it was fun, but it was bumpy because after we bought our house, we had maybe 12 grand in the bank. Like that was our safety net. And we're kind of riding a little risky here. And God bless Liz. She's always been full-time employed. She's a dietitian at the VA hospital here in
Nice.
Cincinnati. So she's without her stability, it would be very difficult for me to be the entrepreneur that I am, because she's had to put up with a lot of me being an entrepreneur, if we're being honest. So God bless her for being able to do that. Holding down the fort, having a steady income and insurance while I'm busy trying to really hit it big. So, but that first year was tough because I didn't make any money really. Like I had less than $20,000 in revenue.
Okay.
But what I had was proof of concept that there were people out there who were going to pay me money to do the skill that I would promise them, which at the time was simply producing Facebook lead gen ads for smaller local businesses.
Nice.
So, and then in each consecutive year, the business would 2x. So it got slowly but surely better and better. And honestly, I'm 6.5 years into this, and just in the last 4 to 6 months is when my business has really started to explode. It has been a long journey, and I am by no means there yet. Like I still feel like I just started up last year, and I'm trying to hit growth mode today. So I'm still a boutique agency, but I've had a lot of new business come in just the last 6 months here, and it's led to a lot of growth, a lot of being uncomfortable, a lot of I'm hiring out some more folks to work with me, be on my team, learning how to be a leader of people rather than just a biz development guy and a fulfillment guy and an everything guy. So
what's that like? Because you figured out how to grind. You figured out the mindset and make choices. You obviously care for your family, so you've got all these things that you're good at and getting better at, and now you've got to go and hire someone. Was that easy or hard for you to let go and actually hire someone to do stuff for you? I'm curious about that.
I hired my first help about 3 years ago, so probably halfway through the journey, and it was good. She would help me through fulfillment, on writing ads, on writing emails, putting things out there for clients. It was not a ton of work, but it was good because I got my first experience in taking work off of my plate. And then I expanded services. I met a guy who runs his own Google Ads agency, but does a lot of work through partnerships. So I said, hey, if I bring on clients, if I start offering Google Ads, is this something we could partner on? And you'd be basically the brains behind our Google Ads at Ricochet. And he goes, absolutely. We've been working together for going on 3.5 years now. So that was kind of the second person I brought on to help build this thing. And then in just the last about 6 months here, I've brought on an email copywriter. I've brought on actually my sister. She's looking to pay off some school debt. She's a doctor, so she's way smarter than me, but she's really skilled at marketing and at getting things done. So she helps on some of our email accounts and some of our social media accounts. And it's fantastic because she's awesome to work with and she does a great job. And it's a win-win for everybody. So my sister's been helping me. Little nepotism there, but
well, hold on a second. Is she good at what she does? Is she good at helping you? Okay, well, no nepotism then.
That's why she's still here. She
is good, so she earned it. She earned it. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So shout out to Molly. She's been a big help in just the handful of months she's been working with me. So
one thing about Molly, what's the greatest thing about Molly? You can shout your sister now.
Oh, the greatest thing about Molly. Well, she was supposed to be a dog. See, when she's 6 years younger than me, and my parents said that we're going to get a dog. And finally, my older sister and I were like, sweet. They listened. We're getting a freaking dog. It's about time. And then about 3 months later, my mom says, oh, by the way, scratch that dog idea. You're going to have a sibling. I was like, no, I already have one of those.
I asked you to honor your sister, and you said, man, she should have been a dog. Wow, that is amazing. Molly is definitely turning over right now. It's excellent.
I can't wait to share this episode with her. She'll love it. No, but it's
the
running joke in the family because
should she have been a cat? No, I don't know. Okay.
No. Whoa. Easy. No. Yeah. No. See, it all works out perfectly because as Molly likes to point out, if she were the dog that we were promised, we'd be on like dog number 3 already. Oh. So we've got one awesome sister who she's the golden child because she's a doctor. Like she crushes it. So, and she works with professional athletes at her practice. Like she's living the dream. She works with Major League Baseball pitchers and like all-star catchers, and she's crushing it. Yeah. So she's awesome. She's like I like to live vicariously through her, through all the athletics and athletes she gets to hang out with.
Does she ever get tickets to games?
She does this in her spare time.
Or anything?
I have kids, so it's been kind of tough to take her up on some of the offers because they kind of come up where it's like, hey, we got an extra ticket tonight. And I'm like, isn't the game in like 40 minutes? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, yeah, see, I don't know if I can make that fly, but go enjoy the game with all your professional athlete friends.
There's no way. Yeah.
But it's cool. I've gotten to meet the guys that she works with, and they're all super cool, and it's wonderful. They're up in Dayton, so you wouldn't think of it. There's plenty of major league talent up in Dayton, Ohio. But so it's been great having her work with me, and thank God she did not turn out to be a dog. She is a wonderful, lovely sister who has been there for me a lot of times, and she's now helping me in my business.
That's super cool.
It's fantastic.
I was making light of it earlier, but it makes me happy to hear that you speak so well of your wife, and in the end, you mean so well of your sister, and you speak well of your sister. I love to hear. Love to hear these things.
I like to give her a tough time.
I'm an only child, so I don't understand that. I thought that you're supposed to be allies and best friends with all of your sisters and brothers, and I'm learning now with my 3 daughters that is not always the case.
Yeah, it was. Growing up was interesting, right? So it's you start out kind of friendly, then you turn into combatants, and then you become friendly again the older you get. So, but Molly and I have always been pretty much on the same page, pretty much because I tried to treat her like a brother. Like we'd go out and play tackle football, and I'd be like, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you the ball, and then I'm just going to squash you like a bug. It's going to be great. And she'd be like, okay. And then I'd squash her like a bug. She'd start crying. Mom would yell at me. I'd get in trouble, and we'd never do it again. So, it's all right. I asked Mom, I said, if you're going to have a kid instead of a dog, could you make it a brother? And the answer is clearly no. And I'm not bitter about it, but it's okay.
So I may have jumped the gun here. I started asking about business and kind of the different levels as you scale the business. And I failed to kind of pay homage and talk about some of the things in your background. I know that you competed at a very high level in sports. And I want to kind of go back in time for a second, or just kind of go back to that chapter in your life. You're dealing with this autoimmune diabetes challenge and disorder. You're dealing with that disorder. And now talk to us a little bit about your competitive baseball history, because I know you did that at a high level.
Yeah, it was, and I don't want to claim that I was never a major leaguer or minor leaguer. I played at a very high level in high school. Here in Cincinnati, baseball is a very big part of the sports fabric in our town. And I was I was a pitcher, and I was pretty decent at what I did. And I got to play for some really good teams that were, call it travel ball. So we'd go around to a lot of different tournaments and play a lot of great competition from around the country. I kept a list of all the guys I played with or against who played Major League Baseball. And it was up to about 14 at last count. And now it's funny, now that I'm 33, there's only a few of them left. So guys who I played with or against that either had a cup of tea in the majors or do play in the majors. So like Kyle Schwarber, played against him here in Cincinnati in high school, and played 1 year of fall ball with him. So it's kind of cool, not to name drop, but it's kind of fun to see the guys I was like, that guy pitched against me, or we played fall ball together, or that guy was on the bench with me. Like it's kind of cool.
I got dunked on.
So I learned
Kevin
a ton.
Garnett dunked on me back in 1996, I think it was.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Why did I say that? Sorry to interrupt. Oh my God. That was embarrassing. Okay.
I could see you playing a solid defense.
Yeah,
though.
I was good at defense. I'm 6'7", man. I got long arms. I mean, it's hard to score on me, but when you're Kevin Garnett, you can score on me.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. If you're 6'7", yeah. But yeah, so I learned a whole lot from playing baseball. By the time I got to the end of high school, I had opportunities to play at smaller colleges, but I really wanted to go to the University of Dayton. My older sister was there. Looked like she was having a great time, and I wanted to go kind of hang out with her and then see if I could make baseball happen. So that's what I did. I went there, went to the walk-on tryout, didn't make the team. Wasn't surprising. Played a couple of years of club baseball and had a great time. But so that was kind of where the baseball career ended.
Okay.
But man, did I learn a lot from playing it from, T-ball all the way up through highly competitive high school baseball and going to Division I school tryouts and going to all these different prospect camps, meeting these guys who were light years ahead of me in terms of skills and talent and ability, seeing dudes whipping pitches in there at 94, 95 miles an hour. And I'm sitting there at like topping out at 85 maybe. And it was cool to just be around these upper echelon athletes. And
Heck yeah.
it was awesome. I still love baseball, though. As you can tell, I got my red stuff, my bats and everything hanging behind me.
Are you a Pete Rose fan?
I love Pete Rose, the baseball player. The human leaves a lot to be desired, but he absolutely needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, he does.
He's the hit king. He's the hit king. You gotta let him in.
He bet on himself.
Put an asterisk on his plaque. I don't care.
He bet to win.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Can you imagine Pete Rose betting to lose? That's impossible.
That would be bar for life if you bet to lose. If you bet to win, maybe there are things I don't understand about this that just are simple for my brain. But if you bet on yourself to win,
someone will let him in after he dies, and he'll never get the pleasure of seeing his plaque at the Hall. And it crushes just about everyone here in Cincinnati.
This may be a major opportunity here for me to gift you something. I don't know if you're interested in this. Check this out. I was at a pawn shop, which is a place I like to go, or a thrift shop. I like to go pawn shop, thrift shop shopping, just to see what I can find. And my wife and I went to one in New Holland, Pennsylvania, for Thanksgiving last year, the day that Michigan destroyed Ohio State. And I found 181 Pete Rose mint condition 1978 Topps baseball cards, like a grandma in a shoebox, just threw them out. They were in a pawn shop. And I saw them there. I have them on my shelf right back here, just sitting on the shelf. And I got them. All of them for $30 plus tax. Right.
Wow.
So I've got like these, and if you look them up online, they're not worth as much as I thought they'd get. Oh, I just hit the jackpot. I just paid for college for my kids.
If they're the rookie card,
my God,
maybe.
Yeah, that's like a tri card, isn't it? A Pete Rose card? I don't remember. I think it was 3 people on that card.
Yeah, there's.
But yes, so I've got one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send one to you just because you're the first person I've met on my show that has an affinity for Cincinnati teams. So I'm sending you a Pete Rose card, my friend.
There's Pete. He's right over my back shoulder here. This is great for radio viewers, right?
Yeah.
You can definitely see what I'm talking about.
What is radio
that's
now?
The 1970. That's
there
the
is radio.
Big,
It's called podcasts. That's radio nowadays.
There you go.
Okay.
Right. So for you viewers, you can see Pete Rose chilling right over my shoulder in that lineup.
That's right. Man, I'm so fired up. You have Lou Holtz right in front of you, too. You get to look at that every day. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's right here. And I got Eric Parsegian signed me some nice stuff.
I wouldn't have known who that was.
I'm a memorabilia collector, too.
If I didn't watch Rudy.
He's one of Notre Dame's all-time best coaches.
If I didn't watch the movie, I wouldn't have known who that was. Interesting story. I'm okay telling publicly now. Rudy, the first time I ever saw it, is the first time I ever cried in a movie. What scene did I cry in, Brien?
I don't blame you. When he got into school. Or when he made the sack.
Of course, when he made the sack. This was a cry, a victory cry. Cool. This is for you listeners, this is a real male moment. Any competitive male who's played sports can know that there are certain things when you can achieve it, then you might have a tear. And I did not achieve that, but I cried because he's the underdog and he made it. And that was a big moment.
I've watched that movie no less than 300 times in my life. It's like a tradition. Every time football season rolls around, I pop that in every September and give it a watch.
Is that Jon Favreau as the friend? Oh, I'm just now putting that dots together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. D-Bob. Yep. That's Jon Favreau. And Vince Vaughn makes an appearance in the movie. Did you know that?
Was he wearing a Letterman jacket?
He's O'Hara. He's in the Letterman jacket, and he's like, He's like, he's out here acting like it's the Super Bowl. You suck ass. That's John. Or
You
that's
have seen it 300 times.
that's Vince Vaughn. Yeah, I could. Yeah, too many
I can do that
times.
with Anchorman and Caddyshack, but okay.
So another one. We're gonna need another episode for movies.
Let's go to. We're getting on time here, so let's go to just some lessons. Any key lessons that you've learned from having the autoimmune disorder at a young age, and then playing competitive sports, and then having family, and then getting married, having kids, and having that really cool story of meeting Liz, and all the stuff you've shared. What are some of the key lessons that you'd like to share with us, Brien, that come up for you?
The key lessons for me were perseverance and choice. I think those are the top two, because when you're presented with a hardship, for me, it took me a long time, and I'm still learning to better myself on how to make the right choice in terms of how I'm going to react to a scenario, react to a happening, react to something, whether it's negative or positive. Because if you choose the wrong path, it can greatly affect you, your psyche, your work, your life, the people around you, what you do, how you do it. And that can snowball in a negative fashion, just like it can snowball in a positive fashion. So being, an eternal optimist, I've been very much so the last year trying to turn myself far more into an optimist, as opposed to choosing to have poor reactions to adverse things. And I'll use an example. My oldest daughter was diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder called Rett syndrome, RETT. And it affects 1 in every 15,000, mostly female births. And when that happened to us, this was 2020. I was right in the heart of the pandemic. And there were milestones that my daughter wasn't meeting. We went to the doctor. It took 10 months of testing and all sorts of things to figure out what was going on. And it turns out she has this incredibly rare disorder. It's spontaneous genetic deficiency. So it wasn't inherited from me or my wife. And that's what happened. That's what it is. It affects every aspect of her daily life. She can't talk. She can't walk. She can walk a little bit, but needs a lot of support. And there's a lot of, she does her talking through a speaking device where she can use her eyes and select what to say. The best way to describe it is that the lights are on. She's absolutely home. She just can't tell you.
With her voice.
So she tells us through eye gaze with her voice, right? She doesn't have a voice. So when that diagnosis came down the pike, at that time, my wife and I had a choice to make. It was, do we sit here and wallow? Do we, how is this going to affect us, and how are we going to choose to move on? And the choice was either wallow in self-pity, be angry, ask why, ask, how could this possibly be? What do we do? We're lost. We're all alone. Or we make the choice that her and I both made that, for me personally, it might be a little bit different for my wife, but I allowed myself to grieve over it for about 3 or 4 days. And then my very first action, in which I kind of contribute this to being a business owner, was, all right, I have to take action. I've got to do, what can I do to learn everything I can? Who can I connect with? Who else has children with this disorder? How can I talk to them? How can I learn from them and understand more about this and see what we are in for? And then choose to live every day for our daughter, to do something to improve her life, to do something to invest in her capabilities, finding the best doctors. We're very blessed to be here in Cincinnati, Ohio, with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. It's one of 19 clinics for this rare disorder. So we're very fortunate. How to find the best therapy, how to find the best classes for this. We are also blessed. We live in a great school district, and one of the best school districts in Cincinnati for special needs classes. So we had all these choices to make, and realizing that we are still blessed. She's the daughter that we always wanted. We were just thrown a curveball that we weren't planning on. And we had that moment to choose to be grateful for what we have and do what we can to support her at all times. And that's the choice we made, because and I think in a past life, when I was in high school or in college, I was very volatile. I could really take that choice to go down negative road and get really depressed about it, or whatever was going on at the time, be on those emotional roller coasters. But the older I get and the more kids we have, and especially with my older daughter, Cecilia, it really taught me to be grateful and know that you're blessed. She's blessed, and we're very fortunate. We have a ton of help around us. My parents are incredibly helpful. We're blessed that they're 10 minutes down the road. Liz's parents are only an hour away. They help us a lot. And we have a lot of good friends and family and great doctors and care team that help us with our daughters. So, not to have too long of an example there, but the choices that you're presented with lead you to have the ability to persevere and find your way through them and be better for it, or to choose the opposite and wallow in self-pity and, fall into that victimhood trap, which I think there's a scourge of that in our country right now, the victimhood, right?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's such an unacceptable way to live, but it's a choice. You choose to do that. So I think those are the two biggest things for me.
I completely agree with everything that you just shared about it's a choice. And it's a scourge or a scourge on our country and on humanity. And if anyone hears this, it can take some inspiration or some solace in knowing that, Brien has chosen, Matt has chosen to not play that game. We've chosen to own ourselves and own living a life of gratitude, regardless of the circumstance. Then I feel that we've accomplished our mission today to help others see hope, and that they can do it too. And you said turning down that negative road. For those of you who have listened since the beginning, that's to the west side of Cincinnati. So stay off of the negative road. I'm just kidding, West Siders. I'm just kidding. I love you all. That was the lighthearted joke about the West Side.
It's just less accessible out there. We have more highways over here.
Yes. Well, so tell us where we can find out more about you and your agency if we want to find out more about hiring you or just see you on social media. Where do we go, Brien?
Yeah, absolutely. So my agency is Ricochet Digital Marketing, and we're on a mission to make sure that no high-ticket home improvement company ever gets burned by a marketing agency again. So if you are, even if you're not within the home improvement niche, we help a lot of companies to implement our Market Master system, which is web development, Google services, so Google Ads, Google Business Profile, Facebook lead generation ads, email marketing, and targeted direct mail. These are the 5 areas that I identified for businesses in this niche that really need to be focused on in order to find positive ROI with marketing. And too many times in marketing, there's too much bad mistrust and anger and deceit out there. And I'm on a mission to be the complete opposite of that and eliminate that scourge from the marketing world for small business owners. So you can find me at ricochettdm.com. That's RICOCHET. Sometimes that's an easy word to misspell. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. So just look me up, BRIENGEARIN. I'm pretty active on there, and I love connecting with new folks on there and learning about your business. Or you could always shoot me an email, Brien, BRIEN, at ricochettdm.com.
Yeah, and for those of you curious, I'm at the website right now, ricochettdm.com, and if you're watching this video, you see Brien has a hat on, and I always wonder, with people with hats on, do they have hair? I'm looking at the website right now, and Brien actually has a lot of hair. Oh, yeah, he's got a lot of hair, and we shop.
I've got a good rug,
I think
Matt.
we shop at the same place because I have a shirt like that as well. So this is a nice website. If you want to see the reviews, go straight to the website. You can click on all the reviews. You can see the reviews. You can see everything that he does. Every section of the site has something you can click on and see exactly what the process looks like. So I'm interested in that just because I know that sometimes you get marketers that it's not very transparent what they do and how they do it. And yours looks very transparent. Right. So I like that. So that's super cool.
Yep, that's my goal, is to bring transparency and honesty to this industry, because too many times I'll meet with prospective clients who said that I don't know what's going on. No one tells me anything. There's no communication. I don't even know where my money's going, and it drives me nuts. And it drives them nuts. It drives me nuts too. And that's why I'm on that mission to make sure that no one's getting burnt ever again by marketing agencies. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're having a darn good time doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us, Brien. Ding, 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 ding. You've brought it to the lightning round here. So let's go ahead and move into the last couple of questions before we wrap up. Brien, I'd love to ask you, if you're a reader what might be between 1 to 3 books that have had an impact in your life you'd recommend?
Yeah. So honestly, in the last year or so, I've gotten really back into reading more. It was something that I got away from. I did, for many years, and then I just didn't do it anymore. Probably once I went to college, I was like, "Oh, sweet, I'm not at home. I don't have to read anymore." But in the last few months, I've read some, as I'll call them, some bangers of books that really have made a change in my mindset, both business and finance wise. I have a really deep interest in personal finance, and of course, in bettering myself as a business owner. So my top three, the first one is The Millionaire Next Door. It was a book that was written in the early 90s or early mid 90s. And it just really changed my mindset around the accumulation of wealth and the different mindsets that people in America have when it comes to that, and what makes you different because of the knowledge you have around wealth and how money works. So that was one of my favorite ones. The next one was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was another big one for me. The points that are made in that book are, whether it's talking about passive income or how, the decisions that you make regarding your mindset around money can have, undue effects on your future of your ability to earn wealth and how to retain that wealth. But then in a couple of business books, so I focus a lot in those two areas, but I just finished Clockwork by Mike Michalowicz. I got hooked on that from one of my mentors, and then I read Profit First a couple years ago. So I can say I'm proudly using the Profit First method in my accounting right now. I have a great accounting team that helps me implement Profit First. And I know I'm going over the limit here, but my top of my 3 books that are from two authors really, is Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy. So is the Who Not How, Gap in the Gain, and 10X is Easier Than 2X. Those 3 books had a huge mindset shift when it comes to myself and my business. So that's kind of my go-to list.
Awesome. Great books. Awesome. Great to hear it. And like any overachiever, yeah, it's totally okay to go overboard. That's fantastic, man. Awesome. Well, let's go a different direction. Let's go to music. If there is a song or a musician or a genre, just something that really inspires you and gets you going, what's your music of choice?
So, and you could ask my wife, she'll say, "Oh, you listen to everything." I do enjoy a lot of different genres of music. If I have to go to an all-time, like, I'm going to sit down and relax type of music that put me in a good introspective space or nostalgic space, it's James Taylor. I grew up on classic rock. I listened to my dad's radio all the time growing up. So classic rock, but James Taylor's kind of that big one for me. I grew up listening to the Beatles, and then the Eagles, the Stones, everybody who'd be playing on the classic rock channel. But of late, and I'm told that this is a very dad move to make, through college, we got into the hip hop and like Eminem, Slim Shady, all the cool stuff, right? To get you up and get you moving. But since becoming a dad, I got really into like 80s hair bands and kind of getting back to the roots of like 90s rock.
Nice.
So like Metallica, the Def Leppard.
Yeah, my
kind of
first
all
cassette
those.
tape.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So AC/DC, and then of course, the more alternative stuff like Goo Goo Dolls and Pearl Jam. Like, the list could go on for miles. So I enjoy it all.
Freaking awesome. And I hate to say it, but I told the falsehood. I was trying to hide this, but my real first tape was Michael Jackson Bad. But Def Leppard is what I want to claim was my first tape, man. That Hysteria tape, that was awesome.
Hysteria? Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go to the last question, and I'll give you the last word, then we'll wrap. When you hear the name of our show, the Eternal Optimist Podcast, what does the phrase Eternal Optimist mean to you?
The phrase Eternal Optimist to me, that brings my mind back to being grateful. I think in order to really have that mindset of giving before getting, and then being able to be positive about your scenarios, whether there are really great scenarios or if they're negative scenarios. If you're grateful for what you have, if you're grateful for the efforts you make in your life, then I think that leads itself into eternal optimism. And that's the path that I'm on. Like I said, I haven't always considered myself to be an optimist, but I feel like in the last few years, I've really shifted that shifted myself into that lane. And I think that's because of reminding myself every day that I'm grateful for what I have. I recently started journaling in the morning and in the evening using the 5-minute journal, which was gifted to me from a mutual friend of ours, Dustin Riekman. And I think that's just made leaps and bounds different in my mindset in terms of knowing that I'm blessed, knowing that I'm grateful, and that I have great people around me, a great family, great friends. And that leads to me just being a happier, more optimistic, eternally optimistic person, if you will.